Welcome to the Weights and Plates podcast. I am your host, Robert Santana, along with my co-host, Trent Jones.
Howdy, folks. It is 2022.
Happy New Year.
The 22nd year of the new millennia. Or the 23rd year. I don't know how you count that.
How do you count it? Do you count the first one or not?
I don't know, man. So, Christmas is, some people celebrate it on January 6th, I believe.
Okay, Three Kings Day.
Old Christmas.
Three Kings Day.
Right? Well, yeah. Well, if you're west of the Bosphorus, then that would be, January 6th would be Epiphany, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're east of it, it would be Theophany.
Interesting.
Yeah. But then there's I don't know. I can't keep that stuff straight.
I don't know. I take my decorations down after the 6th.
It's all Greek to me, man.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, yeah. So we were talking off mic here while we were heating the mics up. Man, you miss y'all miss all the good stuff. Like we talk all of this political talk beforehand that I'm sure y'all are just dying to hear from us. But we keep that off the mics. But we were also talking about some things that are going to be very important for your health and fitness goals in 2022. And one of those is you are part-time dieting, and you need to stop doing that, or at least realize what you're doing and why that is killing your gains.
Yeah, this is kind of a topic that's been on my mind lately, especially with, the holidays just passed, getting, an uptick in clients and current clients also, having some undesirable weight gain over the holidays, which is perfectly fine and expected. But I kind of coined this term a few years back because when you work on as a nutrition coach for, probably thousands of people at this point, you start to see patterns. And, I'm always getting questions about low carb or low fat or low calorie or Weight Watchers or paleo or keto or my hormones are this or, or maybe I need more cardio. And then I get a lot of over-exercisers that want to out-train a bad diet. And it seems that people will grasp onto some minute variable that influences diet to maybe a small to medium degree at best to avoid facing the reality that they're only dieting part-time. So what does that mean? Part-time dieting I define as, you go to work Monday through Friday, you're 9 to 5, you prep all your meals, you eat them as prepared, you don't go over, and then Saturday rolls around and, you skip breakfast, you go out, you eat In-N-Out Burger, you go out for drinks with your friends, and then you have cocktails and, a full course meal and all this other fun stuff. And then you gain 3 pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds over the weekend, take half the week to go back to where you were and then repeat the cycle all over again, only to tell me 2 months from now that you're not making progress and why the fuck isn't my diet working for you? Well, it's kind of like with the training, YNDTP. You are not doing the program. That is, you did not follow my diet. You followed it part-time. So I'd say that this is the number one diet killer. If I had to rank everything that people have done to sabotage a diet, this is number one. And I'd say this accounts for probably 95% of diet failures is part-time dieting.
Yeah. And I never thought about it this way till you said that, but yeah, people, they latch on to whatever the latest diet fad is.
Or exercise fad.
I thought about it because it's just like, people wanting to jump on the fad and they don't understand, the physiology and how this stuff works, and they don't realize that, the physiology of losing weight and cutting body fat it's pretty simple. You just have to eat less calories. All right. Yes, there are some nuances to that, but that's the condition that the precondition that must be satisfied before it can happen at all. Right. But no, you're saying it different. You're like, nah, it's actually because these people are trying to sidestep the actual work of doing the simple thing, which is just consistently eating less food, eating fewer calories.
Yeah. And
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. We see avoidance behavior all the time.
I'd say that the average diet coaching client wants to, dine out, drink, engage in festivities, whatever you want to call it, 2 to 3 times a week and only follow the diet 2 to 4 times a week. And that's and this is just assessing behavior and observing patterns. And they're not going to. Nobody's writing that in their questionnaire that that's what they want to do. But based on their behaviors, after following them for several months, this is what I tend to see. Virtually at least once a week, there is alcohol involved, restaurant food involved that's not balanced out or chosen wisely, desserts, snacks, you name it. All these little problem areas tend to pop up on a regular basis, and then months pass, money's been spent, and then there's the whole question of, well, why isn't this working? Well, it's like, well, this is not what you're doing. You're actually doing that, and it's hard, So I get tunnel vision on the 7-day rule. No matter what gets thrown at me by my clients, I always say, the first step is you have to follow this for 7 days in a row, and then you got to repeat that for several weeks in a row. But first, let's just start with 7 days in a row, not even 1 day at a time, because most people can do it for a few days. The problem is, like I said, the pattern of behavior that I've observed with many people that hire me as a coach and people that I know that aren't necessarily clients that have weight problems and, have engaged in dieting behavior, is that they want to engage in festivities multiple times a week and only follow the diet for a fraction of the week. And you can't, that's why cheat days are so popular, but they're highly ineffective. They do not work, unless you're a metabolic furnace to begin with,
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like the problem is, okay, so like if you're trying to lose weight, right, you have to create a caloric deficit. And it really, if you are consistent, it doesn't have to be that big of a caloric deficit, right? A few hundred calories a day, maybe not even that much, but a few hundred calories a day, which is not that onerous, will produce weight loss for a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe not forever, but that's sufficient to create weight loss for a lot of people. That's not a huge ask, but it is hard to do consistently. Now, on the other hand, though, in the other direction, when you do a cheat day, there's no end to the amount of calories that you can eat on that cheat day.
No, it's open-ended.
I mean, yeah, right. Like, I mean, yes, practically, I'd be impressed if you could eat 20,000 calories, but you could definitely eat 5,000. You could eat, 3,000, 4,000, 6,000. It
happens all the time.
It happens all the time. And so you can do so much damage, so to speak, to your plan, your program on a cheat day. And it's tough. And I think I want to do a separate episode about this, by the way. Mm-hmm. About alcohol, because there's a lot of hidden traps in alcohol.
Oh, big time.
Besides the fact that I think a lot of people have no idea how many calories are in alcoholic drinks, especially cocktails, and cocktails are really popular right now.
Having a cocktail is almost equivalent. It's not almost. It's equivalent to eating a slice of pie.
Yeah. This very high calorie. But there's another thing, and that's just very simply that if you're out drinking and you're having fun with your friends, are you really going to be tracking everything that you're eating during that outing? And B, are you going to have restraint when you've hit your target for the day? And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no.
And C, can you realistically track everything you're eating when you're out?
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's right. I know if I'm 2 cocktails in, like I'm ordering the appetizer, I want the snacks, I'm going to have if we're at a bar or whatever, I'm going to have like the chips and queso. I don't need chips and queso, but I'm going to order them. And, I might have a burger while I'm there too, because I'm hungry. And I may have not have gone to that bar with any intention of even eating. I was just going to go get a couple beers there or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens all the time when I do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, what you have to understand is, because then you get these, nutrition purists, like, some of the classes I've sat in over the years, that'll say, oh, well, it's a lifestyle. Well, no, cutting is not a lifestyle, first of all. It can resemble a lifestyle, but, if you're undereating is not a way of life. So this drove me nuts when I would sit there in my nutrition class when I was an undergraduate, and I'd hear several teachers sit there and say, I don't like the word diet. And I hear dietitians say this and nutritionists say this, and you probably have heard it on Instagram. I don't like the word diet. It should be a lifestyle. It's like, no, undereating is not a lifestyle, and undereating is the condition required to lose weight.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds nice. It's a great slogan. I don't like the word diet. It's a lifestyle. There are aspects of it that should be incorporated into your lifestyle. Like, for instance, I typically eat protein source, a vegetable source, a fruit source, and maybe, beans or oats or something like that. And I'll eat a similar meal like that several times a day, whether I'm gaining or losing weight. Or whether I'm just trying to hold on, maintaining, if you want to call it that. Although I don't believe that maintenance is a thing with body weight either. I think your weight fluctuates, and you think we tend to gain weight with age, just like a car, your body slows down, you deposit fat easier with age, etc. But, the things that I generally eat day to day don't really change whether I'm going up or whether I'm going down. During the lockdowns and all that craziness the last 2 years, I did slide up a little bit in body weight. Then I slid back down recently because, I cleaned up my diet, become more active, and, I'm working through an injury, so there's no reason to be that heavy anyway. But, I generally have eaten the same breakfast for 20 years, I tend to go to the same restaurants. There was a period there where I, ate a little bit more junk over the last 2 years. I flushed that out and immediately lost several pounds, But the lifestyle is your food choices, the thing, your routine day to day, when you're not on a cut, when you're not under eating, because that's what it is. It's under eating. Under eating is not a lifestyle. When you're not under eating, you can get away with a little bit more. I mean, how many times I think about cut failures, for instance. I get these people that, and this is a lot, by and large, everybody who's tried a diet has went through this. They go out to eat, their weight balloons up 4 pounds over the weekend, then it's back down 2 days later. Well, just contextualize that to a situation where you're not trying to lose weight. The same rule applies. You dine out, you relax a little bit, provided you don't go completely overboard and just eat till you get sick. You'll probably lose whatever little weight you've gained over the weekend. You have that flexibility, but most people are not hiring me to maintain. Most people have weight they would like to lose. And when you have weight that you would like to lose, no, it is not a lifestyle. You are under eating. You have to under eat to lose weight. There's just no way around that. And sure, if there's, psychological shit tied in with this, then you have some mental health issues you got to deal with to make it effective and make it stick. In the absence of that, though, there's no escaping the mathematical reality that you have to consume less than you're putting out. I can come up with so many different fad diets and catchphrases to make it sound like I've come up with something new to accomplish the same thing. But at the end of the day, you got to undereat. The extent to which you need to undereat, we talked about in the last episode, that is dictated by set point. If you study famines, not everybody got bone skinny, but everybody lost weight, during a period of famine. And the people that were most metabolically efficient who also tended to be heavier, tended to survive these things, I think of the Arizona Pima Indians. In the early 20th century, their water supply got diverted up the Gila River because there were communities being established up there. And a lot of them died, and then the ones that survived tended to trend towards insulin resistance and obesity because that's what allowed them to survive, right? They're also inactive too. There's activity level problems down there, but, and they've compared that to the same tribe on the Mexico side. They tend to farm more, and they don't have similar problems. But the big one is, you kill a bunch of people by diverting their water supply. Think about what it takes to survive that, right? So, I'm kind of digressing into a different point, but my point is that during periods of famine, not everybody got down to a BMI of 15. There were some people that still held on to some fat, just because of genetics, So, you have to undereat, and some people have to undereat more than others. And for some people, it's not worth it to try and get skinny. You're just you're a heavier person, So, that was last episode we did. But my point is, if your goal is to weigh less than you weigh now, or have less body fat than you have now, then you have to eat less than you're eating now for 7 days at a time. And, it might be 6, it might be 8, this number is not hard set in stone, but it roughly takes about a week to see fat loss reflected on a weight scale or on a measuring tape,
Well, and it carries you, I think the important point is that it carries you through the 3 phases of the week, right? Like it's easy to be a hero on Monday and Tuesday when the week's boring anyway. But then you've got Thursday, Friday, where a lot of people start to go out, and the week gets more relaxed. Maybe cut out a little bit early out of work on Friday if it's been a slower week, whatever. And then you've got the weekend as well. right? So there's, if you can do it for 7 days, that means that you have made the behavioral changes or you've changed your environment in order to stick to your plan through not just the easy phase of the week, but the harder phases of the week. And that's huge.
Yeah. And on the macro level, you're not just going to lose weight and keep it off forever. You're going to gain some back. It's probably going to happen at some point in your life because life is not linear. And as you age, it's easier to gain weight, for one. So, the point is you don't want to be constantly cutting or constantly starving. That creates all sorts of metabolic disturbances. But like, for instance, I cut in 2016. That was the last time I actually did a hard cut. And then over the course of, 5 years, I've gotten stronger and gained about 25 pounds back roughly. And then now I'm down another 10, It's the first time I've actually actively tried to do anything, and I'm not even tracking anything, I just clean the junk up.
And I bet that you're a decent bit leaner at the heavier body weight than you were the first time or the last time you were at that body weight.
Oh yeah, I definitely see that.
For the first cut. Yeah.
No, I definitely see that. But
yeah, that's, it's been my experience from just the strength coaching side that there are two factors that outweigh just about everything else when it comes to training and getting results in the long term and then maintaining those results. And that is, number one is technique. You need to have good, solid, repeatable technique. And number two is consistency. And if you have those two things, then it almost doesn't matter what your program is. You're going to see results. Now, of course,
I believe that.
A reasonable program, a rational program, and good progression and following the principles of programming is going to get you further. But man, I've seen some people that have, frankly, pretty pedestrian programs that are suboptimal, but they just really consistent, and they get stronger, bit by bit, year over year, and they maintain that. So those are the two most powerful factors, and they're in the whole nother league compared to all of the other elements that go into your results.
No, it's 100% true. I accidentally got stronger over the last few years, just, doing very little.
We talked about the maintenance, right? In the maintenance episode, we're not, we're not actually maintaining. We're still training. We're still trying to add. We're just not doing we're not doing the most effective programming to add weight to the bar. Instead, we're doing less intense programming. But the thing is, I've still, over periods of time, still getting stronger.
Same thing applies to fatness. You're not just going to maintain body fatness. You're going to get fatter over time. If you do things right, it happens very slow, and you don't have to constantly be gaining and losing weight. But every so often you're going to carry a few extra pounds, and you have to clean it up, and that's really that's really the situation you want to end up in, where a simple cleanup takes you back down, and you have to do this hard, long, drawn out, cut phase, for lack of a better word. But ultimately, so the other day I was talking to my girlfriend, and she has great genetics. She doesn't store any body fat on her torso, really.
Competitive bodybuilder, by the way. I think we've mentioned that before.
She competes in bikini shows. And what she learned the hard way, so she started, 2 years ago, probably 2019, I want to say. And she thought, she struggled with powerlifting. She has a torn labrum. She can't push her squat very heavy, and she's small framed, so she's not, real super strong, but she's put on muscle lifting very little, which is a whole nother topic for a different podcast, she tried to do these because, she has a good figure for it. She's petite. She's naturally lean. She has visible abs year round, and she eats, 2,000 calories to maintain that. She's small little lady, and she can eat quite a bit. However, when you go into physique competitions, you're being evaluated by people who have body dysmorphia. And if you're one of these judges, fuck you if you're offended, because at least admit it. When I used to care about my appearance and was into all that, I had definitely had some body dysmorphia myself. Most of us do, if we've trained in a gym and have paid attention to how we look, there's a certain level of that.
You were talking about the coach that was guiding you through that cut down to, 13%, 12, whatever it was.
He was so practical.
He was telling you, right? It's dude, you're never going to be lean enough. You're never going to be big enough. And I just imagine, since you said that, I've been imagining, if you just think about all of these other people in the world of bodybuilding are also doing this process at the same time, everybody's just nuts. Like they're just all bulking and cutting.
I remember he told me, he's like, bro, you're never going to be lean enough. That's what happens. Your brain goes crazy,
Yeah.
But, when you're when you're in a bikini show or a physique show, I have no intention of ever doing anything of the sort. But God, the way these people evaluate the human body, it's just disturbing to me. I never wanted to compete in any of that. I used to read the magazines, and I'd kind of be like, well, those guys are super ripped. I'm not trying to quite go that low, I never bought into that subculture. I always thought it was kind of weird. It's hard, and I'll explain how it's hard in a second because it's relevant to this episode. What my girlfriend learned was that in the absence of drug use, which, changes the focus in that sport if you're a drug user and you're in a untested competition, which is most of the higher level ones, they don't really care about that. And, I don't judge that. They're trying to look a certain way, and drugs allow you to change the way you look quite easier than just training and dieting. So anyways, what she learned as a drug-free competitor was that the competition and the training for the competition is really, it's competitive dieting is what it is. It's like who can starve the most for the longest, And, she did what a lot of our clients do, and it was kind of funny watching her go through this. Is she, well, I need to do more shoulder work, or I need to do more glute work. And she's just sitting there talking about the exercise portion when I'm like, Christy, you're part-time dieting. 10 o'clock at night rolls around and you're making popcorn,
Yeah.
And, she has a problem with night eating, or, she's done it since she was a kid. It's an ingrained habit. She wants a high-carb snack late at night, and then it turns into more eating, especially when, she's actually trying to follow a calorie-restricted diet and the hunger's high. She has a hard time going to bed hungry. It's just, it goes against decades of habits,
Right,
and,
right.
She always did well. She'd go in there and play second every time, but she couldn't win, in part because, these shows are political for one thing, but the biggest thing is she can't starve enough to look sick. And, some people like that look and don't see it as looking sick. I see it as looking sick. You're getting very low in body fat. It's not healthy. I've seen people try to argue that there's no evidence of that, but, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So, why do people feel like shit? Why do men's dicks stop working? Why is your libido gone? Why are you tired? Why are you foggy in the brain? Why does your training go to shit? Why can't you perform at a high level? Ask yourself all these questions before you try to make an argument that low body fat is not unhealthy. If you're naturally low body fat, and these people exist, my brother's one of them, although he doesn't think he's lean enough because he has Los Angeles body dysmorphia, which is a different type.
Right.
But, by our standards, he's naturally lean. He has tight skin, veins, visible abs, even when he's quote unquote fat by his own standards. Big capstone delts, just bodybuilder genetics, and he doesn't train. So when he trains, naturally people accuse him of being on steroids because he just has that physique, right? Those people are pretty healthy at 9% body fat. I think his set point's probably more like 11, 12, somewhere in the 11 to 13 range if I had to estimate. But, there's people leaner than him that are about 9% body fat, 8% body fat, and they eat, several thousand calories a day, and they don't really put on fat till they're in their 40s, or 50s sometimes.
Yeah.
My friend Nick was one of these guys. He was very, very ripped, great athlete. So if I had to guess, he probably had a pretty high vertical. He played football, he wrestled. And when I met him in college, he was a drunk like most college kids and lived off Taco Bell. He used to call it Taco Hell. Horrible diet. And then he had 8-pack abs. I mean, this guy was the most ripped, muscular dude I've ever seen. And when he did start training, he really, I think, if I didn't know him and knew his routine, I would think he was on drugs. And no, it's just he had tight skin, big capstone delts, bulging biceps, veins. And when he'd go in the weight room, he'd just fuck around doing the same bro workout everybody else was doing, and he'd look super jacked, and his abs would get bigger. They get more defined.
Right.
And he talked to me, and he said his dad was the same way. He's like, yeah, my dad just escalated to a flat stomach after 50. He went from abs to from an 8-pack to probably a 4-pack, still tight skin, vein on the biceps, veiny forearms, and eats like a normal person. But when you're not naturally like that and you try to get like that, it doesn't feel too good. Your body will fight you every step of the way because it perceives the situation as starvation. And when you translate this into a drug-free physique competition, bikini competition, bodybuilding competition, it's going to fuck up your body physically. You're going to have low energy, low libido. You're going to get weaker. Your training's going to suffer. You're going to lose muscle, especially if you've been lifting a long time. And then it can't be sustained. And this is something that bodybuilders themselves talk about. Because even with the drugs, you reach the same point. They're not stage lean all the time, The thing is, the drugs keep the muscle on them and allow them to get through their workouts, But you talk to anybody who's competed in that sport that isn't naturally ripped, they kind of say the same thing. They say getting ready for those shows just takes it out of you because of the dieting, So I say for the vast majority of people that enter those competitions, it's competitive dieting. It's not so much the training. I mean, obviously you have to lift and build muscle and be well balanced. That plays a role in it. But when they're evaluating you, they're looking for these little minute details in your musculature, much of which is achieved through actual training. And I get worked up with the focus, especially with these female competitors. I've noticed this 8 years back. Another coach friend of mine, I met her and I converted her to the Book of Strength, but at the time she was into bodybuilding. They're obsessed with their posterior deltoids and their lateral deltoids. They're obsessed with this because the judges now in female competitions want to see deltoids. They want deltoid caps. And a lot of that's genetic, and muscle.
Well, I was about to say, I can't imagine a whole lot of bikini competitors have that naturally. Because the women that I've seen that compete in bikini are, they're very petite, very small. They tend to have very small shoulder girdles.
A lot of that is genetic, but what I have reliably seen work to move the needle is building up your press. And the bodybuilding people will sit there and say, oh, the overhead press isn't a good hypertrophy exercise. You need to do, isolation exercises.
Face pulls.
Yeah, face pulls and, lateral raises. No, actually presses and chin-ups hit the entire shoulder girdle.
Face pulls are the keto of 2015.
They really are.
I don't think they're in vogue anymore, but there was a couple years where face pulls, everybody, it didn't matter.
Yeah, they
you
ended
could
up
be a bodybuilder, bro. You could be a CrossFitter. You could be a powerlifter. Everybody's doing face pulls. Oh, bro, dude, I tried face pulls. My shoulder was kind of hurting, and I just did some face pulls. Just cleaned it right up.
Yeah, no, I mean, they gave me some that movement gave me proprioception, so I can kind of figure out how to stop my elbows from dancing on the bench press. But
sure, yeah,
I'm not going to train the face pull,
Right, yeah, that's I just find it hilarious that certain just like diets, exercises go through fads too. That's funny. But
this coach I'm talking about, that I mentioned earlier, and if she's listening, she knows who she is. I had her start doing pull downs and then escalated to chin ups, and then she started training the barbell press because with bodybuilder people, it's all about dumbbell press and lateral raises. That's how you build shoulders, right? And reverse delt flies, right? So I took all that shit out and put her on starting strength and, got started with pull downs, got to chin ups and added weight to her press every other workout. Then all of a sudden, lo and behold, she had rear delts. And I'm like, well, look at that. That's interesting. And then she gave me the finger. She knew I was right. But I've seen this, with people that don't have deltoid caps naturally, people like my brother and some of these people that do well in these competitions, I have reliably seen the press move the needle on that. Suddenly they have more visible deltoids. Typically what we mean by this is, you got people with muscles that insert further up the joint. So in the case of the lateral deltoid, you're talking about the humerus, and the muscle inserts higher up, which makes it look more poppy, more pronounced, shorter and peakier, right?
Yeah.
When you have long muscle, it inserts lower on the humerus, and now you have a longer muscle belly. It doesn't look as large and thick, right? What I've noticed, because I'm one of these people, I have long muscle. I was a swimmer. Long arms. I have long deltoids. When I started driving my press up, suddenly I have deltoid definition, and it stays on up until I'm about 190. Then it starts to, smooth out a little bit between 190 and 200. But before, I didn't have very much definition at 165 because I didn't do any overhead work. I was doing every variation of lateral raise you can think of because it worked for my brother who already had the raw materials. He had big, prominent deltoids, tight skin, and low body fat. So it didn't matter if he did a lateral raise or a press. What I will tell you is when I did have him train the press, the son of a bitch got to 175 for 3 sets of 5, just doing starting strength. He could have went further, and he's like, oh, my arms are getting too big. He likes to be small on the smaller side. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with him. I'm done making fun of him for it. But, it was interesting was when he did start pressing, his frickin' arms and shoulders just blew up,
I bet.
But the point is he looked muscular in the shoulders because of the way the muscle inserts on his joint and his, body fat distribution. And, for everybody else, the press seems to work. You know this, Trent. You've trained a lot of clients. I've trained a lot of clients. Yep. As the press goes up, you see more deltoid definition.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And in particular, I've noticed that for people that have done linear progression and they've gone through a fair amount of intermediate training, doing presses and bench for that matter in the 8, 10, 12 rep range really, really can help put on some size. I've been doing a lot of that lately myself, just partially because I'll have workouts where I'm going to do 2 sets today. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. But you do 2 sets of 12 on the bench it's 24 reps. It's a pretty good amount of volume. And I've noticed since I've been incorporating higher rep ranges into my training mixed in with I'm still doing 5s and I'm still doing, doubles and triples real heavy too. But, when I've mixed those in, that's really helped to build my delts and pecs. Yeah, no, it all works. It's just, But it's pressing, yeah. I'm not doing 12s with dumbbells. I'm not doing flies for 12s. I'm not doing cable machine stuff. I'm just doing the press. Well, I want to kind of shift a little bit, and I want to talk about with this part-time dieting stuff. So I want to talk about some things that you can do, some practical things you can do to help yourself out.
So yeah. Before I go into that, I wanted to kind of close that point. So the reason I brought Christy up was because, it's been 2 months now, and I've scaled back on my diet, and I've been more active outside of the gym. And, I've dropped, I think I was as high as 198. Last time I weighed myself, I was 182. So, I dropped 16 pounds in 2 months. And I asked her, I was like, so what'd you learn? Because it was pretty linear. I don't think there was a week where I didn't lose, And she's like, I just have to say no to shit. She's like, that's what you do. She's like, you just turn shit down, She said, this was a few days ago. She said that to me. And I'm like, and that's all there is to it. I'm like, you have to get through an entire week, and then you got to repeat that, and then you got to repeat that, and then you got to repeat that, so you're not part-time dieting for 10 months before you decide to get your shit together and then end up overeating after the diet because you've been mentally dieting the whole time.
Yeah, right.
You end up full-time dieting mentally, psychologically when you do that, and that takes a toll on you, and I've seen this happen before where you'll get a part-time dieter for 15, 20 months, which is why I don't do cuts longer than 3-4 months. I don't care what you've lost. I had, years back, I remember this one person I worked with, 20 months of part-time dieting, got her shit together, lost all the weight, and then guess what? Gained back all of it and then some because she just started eating like crazy because her mind was fixated on food for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And you don't want that, And I talked to talked to Christy about that too. She's taking a break from shows now, but I was just like, you just start thinking about food all the time, and you develop a fucked up relationship with it. Like right now, I don't feel crazy about it at all, and I have every intention of gaining weight back as soon as this leg heals up. And I'm not going to go past to put the line on it. I'm like, February, I'm done, and I'm not going down to 165 again. High 170s is the absolute lowest. I'm going to go 175, and that's with the intention of going back up. So much of that is just also driven by the injury. I pulled my adductor; it's almost completely healed. So it's almost time to finish cutting, and then got to go back up. That's what you do. You try to gain some more muscle. because maintenance is bullshit. But yeah, no, the key there is you really got to look at this as it's a cumulative effect, kind of like building muscle. We run into this with training too. I remember I had a guy once that would just stop showing up when the squat got heavy because it scared him. He didn't like the way it made him feel. You know what I say about feelings. I think you can figure that out. But he didn't like the way it made him feel, so he just missed 3 weeks at a time, 4 weeks, and come back and say, well, the reason I end up not going is because the squat's hard. Then I'm like, well, then stop trying to build muscle because you don't have the sauce for this,
Right.
I just don't have patience for this bullshit anymore, okay, basically people want the results of drugs from exercise,
Right.
They want to exercise and achieve the results of training, which is what drugs do. You could go to any Globo gym or college gym, you'll see some jerk off, college kid, 18 to 25-year-old, that just got on drugs and he's just doing arms and chest every day and he looks the way you want to look, And women do the same thing. They take stimulants and certain steroids that, make them leaner. The CrossFit bod per se, that's a good example. We both know CrossFit doesn't build muscle beyond the first 3 to 6 months, novice effect. But, they show people that look like bodybuilders in these advertisements, and what's going on there. Either they naturally look like that because they're good athletes, and people that compete in the games are also not doing CrossFit to prepare for the games. But
that's exactly right.
But aside from that, you get mediocre CrossFitters that don't necessarily compete at the games; they're just members, and they look like physique competitors. I wouldn't say bodybuilders, not that quite that huge, but they look like fitness models, right?
Right.
And CrossFit didn't do that shit for them. And you figure this out when you look at the average person who's probably skinny fat and out of shape and does CrossFit for 5 years and just looks a little bit less skinny fat and a little bit more in shape.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. The thing about CrossFit is that the competitive nature of it, this is my theory, the competitive nature of the way that most boxes are structured, it selects for people who are good athletes in high school and maybe college too.
Oh yeah.
And so when you see that, when people look around and CrossFit got really popular and they're like, oh man, look at all these jacked people that are doing CrossFit. Well, it wasn't the CrossFit. It was just the effect of CrossFit got really popular. The people who were already naturally athletic that go to it did well in the competitions there because they're athletic. And CrossFit in a lot of places doesn't give you the chance to become proficient in a lot of the moves and the exercises because they're so random. They're constantly cycling in and out. So the people who are going to get it, like if you got to do a bunch of snatches, let's say, the people who are going to get it are the ones who are naturally more coordinated and athletic anyway. So it's a selection bias, I think.
Yeah.
But you bring up a really good point. The whole thing about consistency is it's hard.
It's
hard. It's hard. And I think what it is like you have to be very honest with yourself. If you're going to try to create consistency in your life, this is January. It's early January. That means there are millions of people out there that have set resolutions for the year, right? And what people tend to do, and myself included, I do this all the time. I was talking about that. Like I used to set numbers for myself. Like I'm going to squat 550 this year. Let's just throw a number out there, right? We all tend to imagine ourselves in the future as leaner, more jacked, stronger, whatever, than we are now. But we tend to vastly overestimate how long that's going to take to get there, right? And we sort of like just the thought of doing this, like the thought of imagining myself being a 500-pound squatter or being at 12% body fat or whatever the thing is that I'm hung up on. The thought of that gives me, makes me feel good about it without actually helping me accomplish the day-to-day activities that are going to lead me to that goal. And so what you really have to do is kind of like, all these goals and resolutions, they're fine and all. I'm not down on people who are like, I don't set resolutions or whatever. And I'm like, I just don't care very much about them. They're cool. If somebody wants to set a goal, great, that's fine. But it's just not that important to me. What's more important is being brutally honest with yourself about like, okay, where are your problems? What's your mocha? What was it? The mocha ice cream sandwiches?
Oh yeah, a snacking problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you're, you have a snacking problem, we all do, right? What is it for you, right? And so let's set some things that we can do to change your environment so that you're not going to be tempted as much by those things, right? Like I was talking to somebody recently who is very, very, had a lot of self-honesty. He's like, I'm lazy. He's like, I will not eat an orange if I have to peel it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll eat it out of a can, but I'm not going to peel it. He's like, I'm not going to chop that vegetable. If I buy a head of broccoli or some broccoli crowns or whatever, they're going to rot in my fridge. He's like, if it's not pre-sliced, I ain't going to eat it. He's like, I won't even peel a hard-boiled egg. So instead of setting these goals where he's like, okay, all right, here's new year, I'm going to eat better, no more processed food, I'm going to cook every meal, right? How is that going to work? All right, so if you won't even peel a hard-boiled egg, how is he possibly going to be preparing all this food from scratch every day? Right. Not going to happen. So what this guy does, he's like, all right, I buy the pre-cut, pre-packaged vegetables.
That's what I do. Yeah.
I buy canned mandarin oranges. Is that the best thing to eat? No, it's got all the syrup and shit in it and whatever, but it's something he will actually do. He will eat oranges instead of Twinkies or whatever if he buys the can of mandarin oranges.
Same here. I mean, I get frozen bell peppers because I don't want to cut them, but I'll cut onions because I don't like pre-chopped onions. They taste like shit.
Right? They do. Why are they so bad? But yeah, it's I think that is a key thing, is that change your environment and be brutally honest with the things that you like, your kryptonites, and just give yourself the chance to succeed there. Because what's important is not that you get to some gold standard of like, oh, I'm going to make fresh salmon with freshly squeezed lemon and broccoli and rice every night. No, the point is being consistent, right? If you ate the frozen salmon with frozen vegetable mix and your can of mandarin oranges,
yeah,
right? If you did that consistently, and that means that you're not hitting the In-N-Out burger as a result, that's progress right there. Like, that's going to get you to your goal. So that's I see people fail a lot in just setting these like impossible goals and just overlooking their weaknesses, and we all have them, right?
No, doesn't have to be perfect, but the main thing is the sacrifices have to be made. There's some things you just can't do. You can't eat pizza while you're losing weight unless you're gonna, have one slice. And most people don't just have one slice. There's just certain things you can't have. There's just certain things you can't have. I lost weight after Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's because I have this thing kind of, automated now. I've done it so many times. And I haven't tracked anything. I haven't used a meal plan. But I also knew, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and eat a, Christmas dinner. So that means that I'm, going to take it easy the rest of the day and, scale back. And I actually do scale back. And I do have the dessert. I have everything. I'm just eating in smaller quantities. And you make it work, But what you can't do is you can't follow the diet Monday through Friday and then, go out and have pizza, beer, dessert, and a bunch of cookies, and then do the same thing on Sunday, and then, try and expect weight loss the next day, and then repeat this for several weeks, and then after several months, complain that you're not getting results. You have to, quote unquote, make it through the week. Rule number 1 is 7 days. You got to get 7 days. And you have to figure out how to do that. If snacking is your problem, you got to clear them out. If your spouse is not cool with that, then this is going to take longer than you think because you're going to have a hard conversation. All hands have to be on deck for this. If you have a spouse that wants to snack all day and you want to diet, you're setting yourself up for failure by trying to diet. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that. If you're feeding your kids candy, you're probably going to eat the candy. And why should you give yourself a better diet than you give them? You're the one who controls that economy. I've said this in that other episode about snacking. You control the economy of food in a house with dependent human beings. So if you believe that eating healthy is valuable, you should pass that on. That's just my, 2 cents on that. But ultimately, you have to create an environment for success. And dining out at restaurants, eating heavy meals multiple times a week is a recipe for disaster. Having snack foods all over the house is a recipe for disaster,
Yeah. So I work with a company called You Need a Budget, YNAB as for short. And I edit their podcast, which is also called You Need a Budget. And they're having right now, this is January, so they sell a budgeting software, essentially. They sell a really nice budgeting tool to help you get control of your money. And I like the way they do that. One of the ways they do it is actually they make you assign the money you have right now in your checking account, in your wallet, a job or stuff you have to pay for in the future. You don't get to do future income planning, right? You're like, we'll have a paycheck coming on Friday. They're like, nah, can't count it yet. It's not in. You don't have it. So they do get you thinking and planning ahead, which I think there's some analogs there to planning your environment, like we're talking about. But this is January, and they're running a thing that they do every year right now. It's a January, sort of a monthly, kickstart challenge. So let's just kickstart the year. Let's just we're going to have a hard month. We're going to cut down to kind of bare essentials here and just get the year started off right. And they're like, this is not sustainable. We're just going to do it for a month. And then, we'll kind of go back to a more sustainable pace of saving. Mm-hmm. And there's really, the rules are pretty simple, but there's one thing that they do. They have a rule in there that's no eating out. No eating out. And if you understand the You Need a Budget community, they never tell you what to spend your money on. Mm-hmm. Like, they do not like these conversations. Well, should I buy this or should I not? There's like, we don't care what you spend your money on. That's up to you. Mm-hmm. We just want you to be spending your money on the things that you value and not wasting it on things you don't value. But they're like, there's one thing though that they've found consistently across, millions of people who have used this software now that they all have in common, and that's that they spend too much money eating out. It's one of those things that if you're going to try to save money, you just can't eat out. Not forever, but you just, like, when you're starting, you just cannot eat out. It's just, and I find it funny, there's the analog here. If you're trying to lose weight, you can't eat the pizza. And really, frankly, you just can't eat out very much. I bring that up because I have found in my personal life that when I start hanging out with people that just don't go out to restaurants very much, mm-hmm. I'm leaner and healthier. Mm-hmm. I eat better. It takes me less mental effort to maintain a reasonably low amount of body fat. And I'm not shredded or anything. I don't have mm-hmm. visible abs, but I have a reasonably low amount of body fat. I'm probably like, 15, 16%. Mm-hmm. And I'm fit. And it doesn't take me, it's not hard to do that and to eat the way that I do because I don't think about it. And part of that is when I go out with friends, we bring food to each other's houses. Mm-hmm. We invite people over here. We have a glass of whiskey. I'm not going to a clubby, dinner place and having multiple cocktails or whatever. And that's just, not everybody's going to agree with that, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I just don't put myself in that environment. And it becomes, it's not only that I'm not tempted, it's that it's a lot less mental overhead for me. I don't have to worry about overeating because I don't put myself in those situations very often.
Yeah, and, to echo that, I've had to have these hard conversations with people that just are unwilling to, give that up for whatever reason. Sometimes there are good reasons. I just say, hey, your goals are incompatible with your lifestyle. So, you got to change your goals, got to lower the standards. You're not going to look like a fitness model and eat at frickin' pizza places, and hamburger places, and you're not going to be able to eat these densely packed restaurant entrees several times a week and look like that. It's just not going to happen. You're also, it's not going to happen. I had a guy once, he loved to dine out. He was into all sorts of obscure foods, it was his thing, And I got him down pretty low. I mean, he was in his 50s. We got down to the mid 180s, and he really didn't need to get any lower than that. But, he got to a point where he's like, I can't restrict any more than this. It's not worth it. And I'm like, good. But I said, I laid that out in the beginning, But, if you're one of these people that's it's gotten too heavy and it's legitimately a problem, then you have to weigh it out, What's more important, eating out several times a week or being lighter,
Yeah.
I don't think... yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna go a little bit further here. I'm not done with this point.
Go ahead.
Okay, I am very blessed to have a wife that's an excellent cook. Mm-hmm. She's really good. She's kind of she's cooked professionally in kitchens before. Now she's not like a a trained chef or anything like that. She didn't go to culinary school, but she's scrappy and she can cook, and she's done it in a bunch of different environments, and she really understands like the principles of how to put together the flavors and textures and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. I don't understand how to do that. I can follow some recipes, but I don't understand the principles of cooking like she does. So I'm very blessed in that regard. But here's something else I've learned about eating out. Unless you live in like New York City, the restaurant food is not good. It's not very good.
No.
I'm sorry to tell you that, but like your favorite place is like, it's just not good. And I don't mean that like P.F. Chang's is not good. Well, we all know that. Yeah. I'm talking about like your $80 steak place that you go to. It's not that good. No. It's okay. I mean, I'm sure the meat's good, but their sides aren't very good. Like I think about the nicest steak place that I know of in Fort Worth, that's Steak Central, in Texas. It's a really nice steak place. I mean, it's an easy $80 meal. The steak's good, but the salads, they kind of suck. The sides are okay. The drinks are decent. But like if you actually put in some time and learn how to cook, you can make all of those sides better. And you can make a steak that's almost as good.
Yeah.
So with that, that's the other thing about eating out for our family. We've just found over the years that like, we've been to restaurants that are extremely good, and then everything else pales in comparison. So we just don't want to go out. It's just not even worth the time and the money.
Yeah, I concur. If I go out to eat, I'm either going to do breakfast where, I can pretty much get what I get at home, and it's mostly because it's a social aspect, which is why a lot of people eat out. And then I get, I go to sushi, but I'm not getting tempura and all these maki rolls. That's a friend of mine once said, that's not proper. It's not proper.
Right.
I get nigiri, I get sashimi, I get, edamame without salt. And I don't do the soy sauce. And I just use wasabi, and it's pretty good. It had some pretty good flavor to it. I ate the pickled ginger. And that's typically what I stick to. I might get seaweed salad or miso soup. All this stuff is pretty low calorie and pretty delicious to me. But, that's not what a lot of people are ordering when I'm, looking at diet logs. They want to get the roll with all the, mayonnaise or, cream cheese or, tempura, and just, again, it's the triple S, right? Saturated fat, salt, and sodium. When you get these extremely flavorful, loaded up items, your palate gets used to that. And then you just want more and more fatty, sweet, salty food. And then it's hard to moderate calories with a diet like that.
We had Chick-fil-A a couple days ago for the first time in 3 or 4 months. It's just been a while since we had it. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of shocked. I mean, I knew this, but like I've been so used to like the food that we've been cooking. Mm-hmm. Man, that was so freaking salty. It was ridiculous. And we always get the same thing. I get the 12-piece nugget meal, the fries, and I get a diet lemonade because that's the best drink they make. It's better than the regular lemonade.
I'll have to try it.
It's pretty good. But man, even the nuggets, right? You just leave out the fries. Even the nuggets are just like, I mean, it like burned my tongue after the box because there was just so much sodium, and you don't realize that when you get used to it, right? If you hit the Chick-fil-A once or twice a week, like you're just used to it. That's the level that you need to get your fix. But man, you pull that away, and like we always put a lot of salt in our food here at the house, like. My wife will salt it while she's cooking it, and then the first thing I do, a lot of times, I put more salt on it before I even taste it. So we're not scared of salt or anything around here, but I mean, the magnitude is not even close to the same.
That's why I started making my own burrito bowls. I got sick of Chipotle being so damn salty.
Yeah.
14,000
milligrams of sodium, and
mine are way better.
Yeah.
But
anyway, I point that out because I'm like, I just want to challenge your assumptions, because a lot of people, they're just like, well, but I go with my friends, and it's like, but it's really good. It's just my favorite place to go when we want a date night. And like, look, I get it. I'm not saying don't have the date night, don't hang out with your friends. I'm just saying, like, I want to challenge your assumption. Like, the restaurants aren't very good.
No.
So, so why go to them all the time then?
Yeah, go out for a drink. It's easier to moderate.
Yeah, sure.
But don't get a cocktail. Get a spirit, get a beer. But the biggest thing is just understanding whether your goals are compatible with your lifestyle. You have to answer that question first, because this is what it entails. You're going to have to scale back on this stuff. Like I've eaten out. I've had holiday dinners the last 2 months, and I've done just fine. I've been doing this a long time. I call myself an advanced dieter, I guess, for lack of a better word. I haven't had a diet in 5 years, which is nice. But
it's damage control, though.
yeah,
When you're eating out, right? Now, I don't think holidays are damage controls because they're limited by definition, right? There's only one Thanksgiving a year. There's only one Christmas a year. But yeah, if you're eating out a lot, it's at best it's just damage control, I think.
So yeah, I think that's probably a good place to stop, huh?
now that we've rained on everyone's parade.
Yeah, we're pissing people off, but this is the reality of it. That's when you're cutting weight, the priorities change, and there is a level of intent required. It is a diet. It's always a diet. If you're losing weight, it's a diet. You are under eating. It is a diet. Don't eat that much differently than you plan on normally eating. Now, if you're eating crap all the time, then you're pretty much committing to changing that lifestyle of yours. But if you're eating crap all the time and you're going to diet and you're going to go back to eating crap all the time, it's not even worth it.
Yeah.
The lifestyle part of it is your food choices. They're just things you can't eat all the time.
But, along the way, there is a way to change your food environment. And I think we should explore that a little bit more. We need to talk about cooking, too, at some point, because I find a big thing with people who struggle with this sort of like, changing their food environment and getting away from snacking and getting away from eating out is they just don't understand how to cook. They maybe can follow a recipe, but they don't understand the basics of like how to put together a tasty meal that they're going to want to eat. Mm-hmm. So we'll explore that some more, but just think about ways that you can change your food environment. Go back and listen to the snacking episode again. Just throw out those mocha ice cream sandwiches and the crumpets and but by the same token, if mandarin oranges is what it's going to take to get you to eat some fruit, that's okay. Just be consistent with it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's probably a good stopping point there. So, well, thank you for tuning in to the Weights and Plates podcast. You can find me at www.weightsandplates.com or on Instagram at _Robert_Santana or weights _and _plates.
All right. You can find me at marmalade_cream, and you can go to marmaladecream.com to find my website and my contact information. Yeah, send me a message. If you're interested in coaching, I do online coaching. I also offer form review and custom programming. So if you're interested in that, give me a shout. I'd be happy to help you get started.